Okay, let's dive right into this first source. It tackles something pretty fundamental, life-saving even, but it's kind of shocking how many people don't have access.
Yeah.
We're talking about medical oxygen.
Yeah, it's a massive gap the sources highlight. The numbers are, frankly, staggering. We're looking at about 5 billion people globally who lack access to safe, affordable medical oxygen, according to WHO data cited here.
5 billion. Wow.
Right. And it's not spread evenly. South Asia is hit hard, 78% lack access. East Asia and the Pacific, 74%. And the sources are clear. This is an essential medicine. There's just no substitute for it.
Okay, so what's actually standing in the way? What are the big challenges the sources point to?
Well, it's systemic. You've got serious equipment shortages.
Oh.
Think about pulse oximeters vital for checking oxygen levels. Only about 54% of hospitals in low and middle income countries, the LMICs have them,
Yeah.
and access to oxygen itself, only 58%.
So less than two-thirds have the basics.
Exactly. Then there's the cost. The estimate to bridge this gap globally is $6.8 billion. That's a huge figure. And it's not just equipment or money. There's a real lack of trained people, biomedical engineers, technicians, folks who can actually maintain and repair this often complex equipment. COVID, as the sources note, just blew the lid off these vulnerabilities.
It sounds incredibly complex. So $6.8 billion, equipment, staff.
Mhm.
Is there a clear path forward suggested in what you read?
Yeah, the sources talk about needing sustained investment for sure, but also strong policy commitments. It has to be a multi-pronged thing, innovation, investment, and policy action working together. They mention the WHO access to medical oxygen scorecard as a way to, actually track if progress is happening.
Right, accountability.
Precisely. You can't just drop off ventilators without the trained staff and the policies to back it all up.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Are there examples of things actually working?
Huh.
Innovative solutions mentioned.
Yes, definitely. And that's the hopeful part. The sources mention things like intra-regional cooperation. Nepal and Bhutan, for instance, training staff together for PSA oxygen plants.
PSA plants.
Yeah, pressure swing adsorption. They basically generate oxygen on-site from the air. Super important for decentralized production, especially in remote spots. There's also a push for local manufacturing and innovations like portable concentrators and, crucially, solar-powered systems.
Solar power, that makes sense given power issues.
Exactly. Ethiopia and Nigeria are mentioned as successful examples here. It's vital in LMICs where power cuts are common. But the bigger point the sources make is shifting the perspective. This isn't just a health issue. It's framed as equity, as human rights. Access to oxygen, they argue, should be fundamental.
A fundamental right. Okay, let's shift gears pretty dramatically now from global health to a very specific, complex regional situation. The sources also look at Jammu and Kashmir, specifically counter-terrorism efforts after recent attacks, like Pahalgam and Operation Sindoor.
Right, and one source puts forward a really critical argument here. It suggests the common narrative, the discourse, often focuses too much on the external, like defeating Pakistan, and relies heavily on military force. But in doing that, it potentially misses the crucial internal dynamics, what the source calls winning Kashmir. It's not saying Pakistan isn't accountable, it absolutely is, according to the source, but local factors like identity, feelings of marginalization, disenfranchisement, these are seen as major fuel for the conflict.
So it's saying you can't just focus outward.
Yeah.
What about progress? Have things improved? And what are the ongoing challenges internally based on these sources?
Well, progress on the security front is acknowledged. The sources cite data, like from SATP, showing a big drop in fatalities since the peak in 2001, down from over 4,000, then to around 127 in 2024.
That's a huge reduction.
It is, and it's attributed to things like a better security grid, some government outreach, and also reportedly Pakistan having less capacity to interfere. So yes, a multifaceted approach seems to have yielded results over the long term.
But challenges remain.
Definitely. The sources question the long-term effectiveness of purely kinetic actions, like military strikes. They point out that fatalities actually increased after the 2016 surgical strikes and the 2019 Balakot strike. Operation Sindoor, while maybe a tactical success, might have, according to one view, just revived military nationalism in Pakistan.
What about the local situation right now? Are locals involved in terrorism?
The sources suggest local participation is currently quite low compared to past decades. However, the foreign terrorists who are involved are described as more tech-savvy now. A big worry highlighted is a perceived lack of local support for security forces and human intelligence drying up. Ironically, this vacuum can make it easier for terrorists to operate.
That's counterintuitive.
It is. And there's also the emergence of new groups exploiting security gaps, especially in the Jammu region. The sources mention the kill ratio there currently favors the terrorists, which is a worrying trend.
So putting this all together, what's the suggested path forward from these sources?
The main argument is to move beyond relying solely on military operations. The sources see the strong local reaction against the Pahalgam attack as a real strategic opening.
An opportunity.
Yes. And so they argue strongly against things that could backfire, like house demolitions or mass arrests, which risk alienating people. The push is towards non-kinetic tools, real political engagement, economic development, social integration. Making people the center of gravity is the phrase used. Deterrence needs that deeper approach, addressing root causes and building trust.
Okay, another sharp turn. Leaving security, one of the sources you sent covers a really unusual, almost strange case. A vlogger named Jyoti Rani arrested on espionage charges.
Yeah, this one is fascinating. Jyoti Rani, she goes by Travel with Jo online. She's a 34-year-old from Haryana. The core allegation revolves around her supposed closeness to officials at the Pakistan High Commission and trips she took to Pakistan, apparently sponsored.
Right.
But, and this is really crucial, stated clearly in the police statement cited, there is currently no evidence that she actually shared secret defense information or has any links to terror groups. That's a key point from the source material.
Okay, good to clarify. So what put her on the radar in the first place?
According to the police version in the sources, it started with her videos from Pakistan. One titled Indian Girl in Pakistan apparently got huge views, like 1.3 crore. Another showed her at an iftar party at the Pakistan High Commission in Delhi. Police reportedly suspected this meant she was being groomed as an asset by Pakistani intelligence.
Groomed as an asset, okay. And the charges, what exactly are they, and why is her location relevant?
She's charged under the Official Secrets Act and parts of the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Her location in Hisar was flagged by police, according to the source, because it's strategically located near military installations, a cantonment, an airport, the Sirsa Air Force Base. The thinking reported is that even seemingly minor info from that area could be valuable. They're waiting on forensic reports from her devices.
And there was some mention of a possible link to the Pahalgam attack we just discussed.
Yes, the sources say police are looking into whether there's a connection because she apparently visited both Pakistan and Pahalgam before that attack happened. But again, it's stressed that police say they have no evidence yet linking her to any terrorist group.
The sources also bring in her father's perspective, right? What does that add?
It adds a different dimension. Her father, Harish Kumar, paints a picture of a pretty modest life in Hisar. He talks about their family history, moving during partition, her education, early jobs. He even mentions buying her an expensive laptop to start vlogging during lockdown. He claims he didn't really know much about her travels or online stuff, partly due to his own health issues. The source does note his account felt a bit rehearsed, maybe from all the media attention, and he's clearly under stress. It contrasts her private life with this online persona.
What specifics from the FIR regarding her contacts are mentioned?
The FIR alleges she met an official at the Pak High Commission, Ihsan-ur-Rahim, for a visa in 2023 and stayed in touch. She supposedly went to Pakistan twice, met another contact, Ali Awan, who arranged her stay and introduced her to two others, Shakir and Rana Shabazz. The accusation is they communicated via WhatsApp, Snapchat, Telegram, and that she shared, quote, anti-national details. A man named Harkirat Singh was also detained, suspected of making the initial introduction. That Pakistani official was later declared persona non grata by India. The sources also mention the legal difficulties. Her father apparently struggled to find a lawyer because lawyers feared being labeled anti-national. A government lawyer was eventually appointed. Her police remand got extended.
What really stands out is how this seems to be sort of broadening the investigation.
Absolutely. The Haryana government, as reported, is now probing more YouTube channels, talking about action against alleged sleeper cells with Pakistan links. Other arrests have apparently happened too. Even an Odisha-based vlogger is reportedly being investigated now, and there's this narrative warfare angle explored in the sources. The police suggest influencers can, maybe unknowingly, create narratives that favor Pakistan. They cite a video Jyoti Rani made from Pahalgam where she condemned terrorism but apparently didn't blame Pakistan or Kashmiris, instead suggesting a government security lapse.
Interesting framing.
Yeah, and a former NIA director's view is included, suggesting influencers could be used maybe by filming near sensitive sites, geotagging photos, or even through honey traps to push narratives against their own country without even realizing it.
But there's a counterpoint offered too.
Yes, crucially. A freelance journalist from Haryana is quoted arguing she seems targeted without solid evidence. This journalist points out that lots of people visited Pakistan when relations were better, and now they could become easy scapegoats in the current climate, whether they did anything wrong or not. It adds that important note of caution.
All right, let's pivot again this time to geopolitics and economics in the Eastern Mediterranean. Our sources look at China's growing presence and strategy there.
Right, the Eastern Med, always strategically vital. China's definitely a growing player, but the sources emphasize it's primarily been an economic presence so far. An important detail is that most countries in the region actually run significant trade deficits with China.
Okay, so what does that economic footprint look like country by country based on the sources?
It varies. Let's take Egypt. China has major port stakes, like at Suez, plus a big industrial park. Though the source mentions some issues there, like complaints about subsidized Chinese goods leading to anti-dumping cases. But investment is booming, expected over $7 billion by early 2025. That's in construction, like the new capital's business district, energy projects, even EV manufacturing. Egypt comes across as probably the most China-friendly, with military cooperation like joint drills and using Chinese missile systems.
Okay, and Turkey.
Turkey has seen a lot of Chinese FDI too, around $9 billion in 2023 alone. It's across ports, infrastructure, telecom, retail. They have currency swap deal too. A big driver for Chinese firms investing there, according to the sources, is Turkey's customs union with the EU. It's a backdoor to the European market. There are plans for Chinese EV plants there as well. Now, Turkey wants closer ties with groups like BRICS Plus and the SKO, which Beijing likes, but China is apparently still a bit wary of Turkey's focus on Uyghurs and its ambition to be a leader of the Turkic world.
What about Israel? That relationship seems complex.
Very. Historically, Israel had close trade and tech ties. China's involved in the Haifa port, something the U.S. has raised concerns about, and Chinese EVs dominate the local market. But the sources highlight a real shift since October 2023. There's growing Israeli distrust because China didn't explicitly condemn Hamas. Plus, security concerns about using Chinese tech, and Israel wasn't happy about Beijing hosting Palestinian factions. A poll cited shows very few Israelis now see China as friendly.
A definite cooling there. Any others?
Greece is mentioned, mainly Costco's big role managing the Piraeus port and a stake in the power grid operator. But Greece seems more cautious now, partly due to U.S. pressure, sticking to diplomatic niceties. China's presence is less significant in Lebanon, which is juggling Western aid versus potential Chinese loans, and Cyprus, where it's mostly real estate investment. China has noted the recent U.S.-Cyprus warming of ties there, too.
It's interesting how global events seem to be pushing China towards alternative trade routes in this region.
Absolutely. The sources explain that the war in Ukraine messing up railroads, plus the Red Sea crisis hitting shipping, has made alternatives vital for China. So, Beijing is kind of rediscovering the middle corridor, that route through Central Asia and Turkey. They're backing projects like the China-Kyrgyzstan-Uzbekistan Railway. There's also a new port project in Georgia mentioned, which could lessen reliance on Turkey for Black Sea access. And on that proposed IMEC corridor, the India-Middle East-Europe one, China's response is described as cautious. They apparently see these things as potentially complementary, not necessarily rivals, and they're careful not to take sides between countries like Egypt or Turkey, who might feel left out by IMEC. China's basically stayed quiet on it.
So, economically very active, but what about politics and security? The sources suggest a different story there.
Yeah, that's a key distinction the sources make. They call China a security consumer in the Eastern Med, not a provider. It needs regional stability for its huge economic interests, absolutely, but it isn't really set up or perhaps willing to project hard power far from home. It seems to be treading very carefully, like its sort of do-nothing approach to the Red Sea crisis. The implication being it expects the West to handle the security.
So not stepping up as a security guarantor.
Not really. Its security involvement is limited to pretty safe UN peacekeeping missions in Lebanon and Cyprus. It stayed out of the Libyan civil war complexities, and apparently it was caught a bit flat-footed by the fall of Assad in Syria, whom it had backed. China does propose peace plans, like for the Palestinians, but the sources view these more as efforts to curry favor with the global south rather than serious attempts at breakthroughs. The overall take is, China's economic role will keep growing, but its political and security influence likely stays limited, at least for now. And the sources ask, is that sustainable if things get really unstable and threaten China's economic stakes?
A good question. Okay, final topic for this deep dive. AI in manufacturing, with a specific focus on East Asia. The sources argue China and South Korea are way ahead.
Yeah, AI is changing everything, and the sources make a powerful case that East Asia, especially China and South Korea, are implementing it in manufacturing much faster and at a bigger scale than anyone else. This is reinforcing their dominance and really challenging those Western and Global South efforts to reshore or bring manufacturing back.
Let's start with China. It's already the world's factory. How is AI changing things there, according to the sources?
The examples are pretty stunning. Xiaomi has a dark factory, almost totally automated, that can make a smartphone every second. That's reportedly faster than Apple's best lines and cheaper. You see BYD overtaking Tesla in EVs, Baidu apparently undercutting Waymo on self-driving tech pricing. The sheer scale is mind-boggling. China's projected to have 30,000 smart factories by early 2025.
30,000, wow. And South Korea?
South Korea is right there, adopting incredibly fast. LG Innotek has a dream factory, using deep learning to slash costs and boost efficiency. Giants like Samsung, SK Hynix, Hyundai are all using AI heavily to stay leaders in chips and cars. South Korea is actually seen as a kind of model for other countries trying to catch up because they've moved so quickly.
So why these two? What's driving this dominance in AI manufacturing, according to the sources?
The sources boil it down to three main things. First, they have clear mission-driven strategies. Second, really strong state business coordination. And third, unique societal support. On the mission-driven part, for China, it's about global competition, especially with the U.S., but also domestic needs, stopping manufacturing, moving out, dealing with an aging population and labor shortages. They've explicitly shifted from made in China to intelligently made in China, focusing on what they call new quality productive forces. They're strong in physical AI, the AI actually in the machines, something even NVIDIA's CEO apparently acknowledged.
And South Korea?
For South Korea, a big driver is the China factor, this fear of being overtaken. Plus, their own demographic crisis is pushing them towards automation. They want to be a top 3 global AI power, and they're focusing hard on deployment, using manufacturing data effectively, sort of like the China model in that respect.
How does the state-business link work? You said that's key.
Yeah, it's apparently much tighter than in many Western countries. In both China and South Korea, government and major companies are really aligned on this. China integrates AI manufacturing into its big national plans, like the 5-year plans and initiatives like AI Plus. The government signals and industry responds. South Korea started promoting smart manufacturing back in 2014, and they've ramped it up because of China's speed, with plans for things like 5G plus AI factories or K-Smart Lighthouse factories, enjoying broad support across different governments. And crucially, there's direct money involved. China has an $8.2 billion fund for this. South Korea pledged $7.5 billion, offering things like insurance, loans, equity, not just cash, but a whole support system, infrastructure, talent training, incentives, industry academia links.
Okay, and the third factor was societal readiness. How does that differ?
It's quite distinct, according to the sources. In China, people generally accept these big government tech pushes. AI is seen as key for national strength against the U.S. Government control helps rapid rollout, and because everyone uses digital tech, there's tons of data generated for AI. In South Korea, a democracy, there's still strong public support for moving fast on AI, often because they worry about falling behind China. This is quite different from, say, the West, where privacy concerns or anti-government sentiment can slow things down. Fast tech adoption there also generates huge amounts of data.
What about jobs? Isn't that usually a big concern with automation?
It is, but the sources say the main narrative in both countries focuses more on job creation, new roles needing AI skills, rather than just job losses. People are encouraged to learn AI, and governments are running big literacy programs. It's a proactive approach.
So what does all this mean for everyone else, particularly those Western reshoring efforts or countries in the global South hoping to be the next manufacturing hubs?
Well, the sources suggest it's a massive challenge. Western reshoring looks increasingly difficult because their companies just aren't adopting AI in manufacturing nearly as fast. And for Global South countries, it's a serious hurdle. They often lack that strong state direction, the close state business ties, and maybe the societal buy-in that China and South Korea have. It makes competing in this new AI-driven era really tough. The bottom line from the sources is pretty clear. This AI manufacturing surge in East Asia looks set to fundamentally change the global industrial power balance.
Thank you for listening. You can give suggestions by contacting on Twitter handle given in the episode description. We are always eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about.